Hello and welcome to a new episode of Vedic Spirituality. In today's video we're going to continue from the last video. In the last video we were looking at the chart and we were analyzing the chart in terms of its main pain point or the main difficulties. And our friend, he requested me to have a look at his chart a second time and analyze it in terms of wealth and family happiness. So I would like to make this short introduction video to just talk about the techniques I'm going to use to analyze this. So astrology is a very vast science. It's a real big ocean, and there's so many techniques and so many ways and so many things to consider, and it is not humanly possible for an astrologer in a short reading to really consider all the aspects. But since astrology is a very intuitive based science also, intuitive based means that the astrologer, on the behalf of the questioner, he will ask the planets, or in other words the gods, or in other words God, to get an answer to his question. And since the super soul is seated in everyone's heart, this is as it is described in the 15th verse of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It says, what is that? Sarvasya jaham mridi sanivisto. Sarvasya jam, this means Krishna is saying that he is staying in everyone's heart, and that knowledge, forgetfulness, and knowledge and remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness, all are coming from him. So the Vedic philosophy describes that the Supreme Lord, he expands himself as the super soul and is seated in everyone's heart and even in every atom, and thus maintaining the whole creation. And we are only able to live and fulfill our desires because he sanctions so, and he's always seated very close to our heart and thus knows what we want. So an astrologer that now sincerely asks for the answer of the question that is asked by the client, somehow or other will be guided by this super soul to find the right answer. So he will look on the chart and use the techniques that he learned, which are also authorized techniques, which are coming from the Vedic scriptures. And somehow or other, though he might not consider all the aspects of astrology, and since he might also not be perfectly knowledgeable in astrology, but by the guidance of the super soul, somehow or other the astrologer is able to just find the right words and see the right aspects within the chart that are at this moment will be helpful for the client. Therefore, in my opinion, astrology is quite a thankful science, because though we are materially not perfect in our analysis and in our study, we're not perfect, but somehow by the mercy of the gods, by the blessings of the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul, still the answers we are giving are very helpful and valid. Yeah, so this is just what I want to say. So I just want to discuss about the techniques I'm using in this video, and let's get started. So one thing I'm using is the Bhava Points. So it is basically like that when we have the sky, like here is the horizon, the eastern horizon, and here is the western horizon, and all the stars and the sun and the moon are the whole sky with all the stars, all the nakshatras and everything, all the zodiacs, they are moving in this direction. They're rising in the east and rising in the west. And this point here, this will always be the ascendant. The ascendant, let me see, I can get it a bit closer here. So here is the eastern horizon, here is the ascendant. And the whole horizon, all the stars, they're taking the planets with them and move it towards the west. And this happens not exactly overhead, over the zenith, let's say here's the zenith, but it happens a bit tilted. I mean, the sun is not always going up straight and is exactly above us and goes down in the west. This happens only in the equator on the 31st of June, or in other places according to different dates. But for most of the time, especially if you are more in the northern hemisphere, then the sun will not go straight up overhead. It will be slightly tilted. So if we say like this is the Earth, we are here on the and that is the zenith. Here is the zenith. So somehow or other, the ecliptic, I mean where the moon and the sun and all the planets they're moving, it is tilted, and because of that, it's tilted, and on this ecliptic there are the zodiacs. So for instance, now it is nighttime here where I'm staying. It's just after sunset, so the sun is somewhere here, and the sun is at the moment in Aquarius. So let's say here in the 7th house will be Aquarius. That means the ascendant should be now 180 degrees away from Aquarius. That will be in Leo. So here will be Leo. Then we have Leo, we have Virgo here, somehow like this. Then we have Libra, Scorpio, and so on. So on this ecliptic we have the zodiac. But if we want to consider the houses, so this is the 1st house, this is the 7th house. This is the exact point of the Lagna. This is the exact point of the 7th house. And they're always 180 degrees apart. But to get the other houses, we have to divide the sky into 12 parts. Then there will be this will be the 1st house. No, the 1st house is here actually. First, this is underground. This will be the 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th. Okay, I didn't make the perfect, but we will divide it here. And therefore, if we are looking at the exact points of the 2nd house, this will be here, it will not fall, it might not fall exactly inside the zodiac sign. So therefore sometimes it gets a bit skewed and the exact Bhava point doesn't fall into exact the same Rasi. So for instance, the Lagna might fall into Capricorn. Like the chart we're going to watch, look at, the Lagna falls at, I think, 28 degrees Capricorn or something like that. I don't have it on top of my mind. But the second Bhava point, the exact point of the second, when we project it on the ecliptic, it doesn't fall into Aquarius, which will be the 2nd sign after Capricorn, but it falls into Pisces. So therefore, if we want to consider the influence on the 2nd house, on the exact point of 2nd house, we have to consider Pisces and not Aquarius. So that is called the Bhava Charita. Yeah, I like to call it this just the Bhava Points. And the reason is why that these Bhava Points do not fall exactly into the rasis. That is because the ecliptic is tilted. And it might fall, it might not fall. Okay, so that is the first thing I will consider, is the Bhava Points, that they are not exactly falling into the Rasi. I will speak about that later in the video again. Alright. So that is the Bhava Points. And in my practice, I could see that this many times works quite well. I like to use that. And then the second thing we will consider very strongly, that is the natural relationships of the planets. So for instance, Mars and Saturn, the relationship is Saturn considers Mars an enemy and Mars considers Saturn as neutral. So we have an influence from Mars onto Saturn that will be an inimical influence on Saturn, and that will starve the Mars. So this is the natural relationships. Natural relationships. So I have a list of these natural relationships on my Instagram. You can scroll down a little bit. One of the posts, you can see the whole table of natural relationships. It's very important. And and it is described in the Parashara Hora Shastra, in the chapter about the condition of the planets, the planetary avastas. Avasta is the condition of a planet, and there is described what is the effect of these natural relationships. So if an enemy influences, this is a bit simplified, if an enemy influences the planet, he becomes starved. This is called Kshudita. And when a friend influences the planet, it becomes delighted. So this is a bit simplified. There are but for now this should be enough. So for instance, we will see that Jupiter, who is the lord of the second power cusp in the chart we're going to look at, is in Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. So now Jupiter, he is in this Venetian environment. And Jupiter considers Venus an enemy. So that means Jupiter becomes starved. And starvation means that we don't have power, we are feeling not fulfilled, we feel down, we cannot fulfill our duty. So since for him, Jupiter is the planet who is supposed to take care of the second house matters, is now starved. He will not have power to fulfill that, but he might get some help from friends by aspect. And that we're going to look at. So, so these are the two main things I'm going to look at. The third one is the use of Vargas. So we're going to look for wealth. I want to look at the second house, the fourth house, the second house, and the second and the fourth house, and that is because of the second house is the stored wealth. That is the wealth we use for our obligation to maintain our family, to maintain ourselves. And the fourth house, that is excess wealth, like luxuries, having a nice house, having a good car, having big bank balance, and so on. Excess money, everything excess luxury is fourth. Everything like just to maintain our life is second. So if second house matters are well maintained, that means there will be no poverty. Life can go on, everything is supplied. Your children always will have food on the table, and so on. If fourth house matters are well maintained, there will be excess, you will have chance to have a good house, you will have chance to have a good car, which is not necessarily needed to just maintain the family. So we're going to look at. And second house matter, we can see more clearly from the D2, from the Hora chart. And fourth house matters from the D4. So how the planets are, how the overall health of this chart is, will give more details about how second house matters will manifest or will face troubles or not in the person's life. And in the D4 chart we will see how the matters concerning luxuries will work out. And to analyze this chart, what I will use in this video, or I generally like to use, is first of all also these natural relationships, then also to see the Parivartana yogas. We will talk about that, Parivartana yogas. If there is no Parivartana yoga, then the final dispositors. And they will give information about what type of general themes are there in the life. So for instance, if we have in the D2 a Parivartana yoga that goes like, let's say, from the 12th house to the 5th house, so there will be always a loss. 12th house matters are there, losing will be there. 5th house is continuation, and 5th house is also creativity. So there must be sometimes a loss of the constant money flow, because continuation is disrupted by the 12th house matters. For instance, so we can see if this will happen in the second D2. So we can see in terms of maintenance, there will be sometimes loss. There will be times that loss is there. Sometimes there will be time that the person will lack the necessary creativity to continue in his job or continue in his business, and therefore kind of falls back, because markets are always changing. We always have to be adaptive and be inventive, and there may be some lack in invention sometimes, and so at times there will be troubles to the money flow, the maintenance, and so on. So more or less this will be the techniques I'm going to use. What's very important is these natural relationships, and then the conditions of the planets based on that. Then the Bhava Points is something we're going to look at, and then we're going to look at the divisional charts. We're also going to look at the D9, the Navamsa, for the marriage. Just a short note on the D9. D9 is like as the D2 we can see second house matters, and from the D4 we can see fourth house matters. So in the D9 we can see ninth house matters, and ninth house is not actually for marriage. It is your dharma, it is your morality, and I would like to say it's like your view of the world, your world view, or like the world, like your basic moral, how you see life and how you treat life and so on. So actually the D9 is not marriage particularly, generally yes, but particularly it's actually the ashram. The ashram we choose. So ashram in the Vedic sense, ashram means, actually ashram I think literally means a place where we do worship. That is an ashram. But in this sense, ashram is a part of the Varna ashram, that is that social system that the Vedas describe. And this is the four Varnas, as we know, the kingly, the priesthood class, the merchandise class, and the worker class. And then there's the ashrams. It's the 4 levels of life. It is being a student, brahmachari, then marry and a whole household life. And then when the household duties are over, we should practice more austerities and refrain from the luxuries of family life and go to the forest, which is called vanaprast. Vana is forest and prasta, I believe, means staying or something, whatever. So vanaprast, and the 4th order is sannyas. So this is meant the ashrams. And how I like to see the D9, it is like the D1, the rustic chart, that is the life path. Life path. That is the D1, the rustic chart. It is about your deha, your body, and your life path. And how we live life, this is according to our morals, to our moral compass. So it's according to our religious beliefs, so to say. We are living the life, and that is seen from the D9. So the D9 shows is more or less like the vehicle we are sitting in to go along the life path. And since for most of the people, we are choosing a marriage life, which is a very big factor in someone's life, how is marriage. Therefore, D9 is mostly considered as marriage. But it can also show how happy and content a monk is in his celibacy, can also seen from D9. Or how much, if someone chooses not to marry, how much happy he is in that state of not marriage. And if somebody chooses to marry, how much happy he is in the stage of marriage. But since for most of us we're choosing to get married and we're choosing relationships as our vehicle of traveling on our life path, therefore most of the time relationships are seen from the D9. Alright, so let's jump into the chart. Alright, so let's have a look at the chart. So it's the same chart we looked at the last time. This is Capricorn Ascendant, Saturn and Moon in the 2nd house, then Sun here in the Aries. And last time we discussed mainly about Saturn, Moon and the Sun. And since we said that the main difficulties here is the low Dikpala of the Sun and this starvation relationship between the Lagna Lord, Saturn, and the Atmakaraka Sun, Moon, Atmakaraka Moon. Alright. So, in this time we're going to look at wealth and marriage. So, for wealth, we are going to first look at the 2nd house. So, as we discussed in the introduction, I'm using the Bhava Points. So, in this Jagannath Hora software, maybe some of you might be familiar with it. When you have here the houses, it shows you the exact points. So, but it has to be properly configured. So there are many ways to calculate these Bhava points. So the one I'm using is Campanus, and what it does, if you want to know more about this, you can actually go to astrologyvideos.com. I learned this from here. This is the website of Ernst Wilhelm, and most of the techniques I'm using here I have learned from him. So there is this Jyotish building blocks that is free for everyone to access, and there is the Bhava system. There are here 3 videos, I believe. Oh no, it's only 1 video. where he talks about all these different types of bhava systems. So the Campanus, this is, you see here, this is the one I'm using, this is one he's recommending to use. And as we said, the ecliptic is where the planets, they are moving along, and the ecliptic is divided into 12 parts, and that is the 12 zodiacs. And but the houses, they are divided by this line which goes over the horizon, which goes over the zenith here. And if you project these house cuttings onto the ecliptics, this is what you get here. So then the first house is the ascendant. So the ascendant is, as you see here, is at 24 degrees Capricorn and 59 seconds, minutes, 59 minutes and 47 seconds here. So naturally the first house, the exact point of the first house is here, 24 and 59. So the exact point of the second house will fall on 5 degree Pisces. So that means the second house, cusp, this is the point which holds the significations of the second house. That point doesn't fall on in Aquarius, it falls into Pisces. And that means that we have to consider the Pisces if we want to talk about the significations of the second house, which is wealth, Dhanasthana. So in the second house, we see the second house is ruled by Jupiter. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, and in Pisces, Mars is there. Yes. So are these, now the question is, are these planets able to uphold the significations of the second house? Mars is pretty happy there, because Mars considers Jupiter as a friend. Here is the natural relationship table. I have published that on my Instagram. So if you're not yet following Instagram, please go there, and you can a little bit look at my profile. And there are many nice informations. One of these is this natural friendship. So Mars considers Jupiter a friend, and according to the rules of the Avastas given by Parashara, that delights Mars. So Mars is held by his friend, means so he will be happily taking care of the second house. In the same time, Jupiter rules the second house, rules the second cusp, so to say, or rules the zodiac in which the second house point falls, to correctly say. And Jupiter is in a Venusian sign. According to the natural relationship, Jupiter is an enemy to Venus. So, and why is that? So also, if we see Jupiter is the planet of higher purpose. He wants to see the laws of the heaven. He wants to see fulfillment of a higher purpose. He's the planet that wants to create, wants to bring the goodness from inside, or the goodness from the heavens to the earth, so to say. He's the Deva Guru. Venus, on the other hand, he is the guru of the demons. He's the teacher of the demons. Both are Brahminical planets, but Venus is about worldly things. He's about the satisfaction we get from the world. So Venus teaches us how to be happy in the world, what to eat to be healthy, what hobby to pursue to become smarter, and so on. So Venus is this, to know how to enjoy life. So Jupiter, so Venus doesn't have a problem with Jupiter, since To having a higher purpose doesn't interfere in this agenda of enjoying life, but in the other hand, to find a higher purpose and to serve a higher purpose, to indulge in enjoyment in this world is not helping. It is disrupting. It is distracting. So therefore, Jupiter considers Venus an enemy. It is not the Venusian agenda of enjoying the world doesn't fit to the agenda of Jupiter of finding a higher purpose and manifesting a higher purpose in the world. So therefore Jupiter is also about creation. It is creating. It is also the significator of children, because we are bringing a soul from the astral world to this worldly realm, something from a higher purpose manifests in the world. That is Jupiter. And being too much indulged into enjoyment will not allow us to fulfill this higher purpose, to make this creation happen, from bringing the things from heaven to earth, so to say. So therefore Jupiter is getting starved by Venus. It is not a good relationship between from Jupiter to Venus, from Venus to Jupiter. So Jupiter considers Venus an enemy. So therefore Jupiter is not happy here in Libra. And how much is that starvation? That we can see from the Shatpala. So we see here the Shatpala of Venus is 436, the Shatpala of Jupiter is 337. So therefore Venus is stronger than Jupiter. So Jupiter is definitely suffering there a lot due to Venus. So if spoken from that, we can see that the second house has some problem. There are some problems there, because the Lord of the zodiac, where the second Bhava point is placed, that Lord is in starvation due to Venus. But if we consider further, we can have to also see the aspects of the Jupiter. If we see here the planetary aspects to Jupiter, we see the Sun is aspecting by 80%, and we see the Moon by 60%, and the Mars by 100%. These are the three friends of Jupiter. Jupiter considers the Sun, the Moon, and the Mars a friend. And why they are friends? So we can also see the Mars is the general, Sun is the king, and Moon is the queen. Moon is about getting nourishment from the world, being adaptive to the world, finding fulfillment, emotional fulfillment. That's the Moon. The Sun is the king. It's about our kingdom. It's about our vision for life, our vision for a better world, our inspiration to create a kingdom that is better for all its inhabitants. And who is Mars? Mars is the general. He's the one who does things. He's the engineer. He goes out and creates. He goes out and tackles the problem, faces the problem, solves the problem, repairs, fixes things. So these are all the agendas of these three planets, of finding fulfillment and nourishment. The agenda of the Moon, the agenda of the Sun, to build a kingdom that is to follow one's inspiration of having a better world and better kingdom, creating a kingdom that is better for everyone. And the agenda of the Mars, of building the kingdom, being active, tackling problems. These all are three agendas. They are very helpful to the agenda of the Jupiter, of creating, bringing purpose to life, bringing something divine into being, into physical being. So all these three planets are very much helping the agenda of Jupiter. So therefore Jupiter gets a lot of delight from these three planetary aspects. And so therefore the delight Jupiter gets from his friends is greater than the starvation he gets from Venus, and also greater than the starvation he gets from the aspect of Mercury. So therefore the Jupiter in the end is in plus. So therefore Jupiter, he will be able to function and create. So Jupiter is also a significator of income, and in his chart Jupiter is also the ruler of that second cusp. And since he is so much supported by his friends, he will be well capable of maintaining the second house. So therefore, just from the Rasi chart, we can see that this person doesn't need to worry to undergo terrible hardships. There are some hardships there because Venus and Mercury is giving hard times to Jupiter, but overall the good things overwhelm. So there might be some shortage at certain times when there is Venus and Mercury dashas going on, but most of the time overall he will not go through poverty or something. Okay, now let's have a look at the Hora chart, at the second chart. So this is, we are going to more deeper now. What is the second cusp, or what is the second house bringing for this person? So for the Hora chart, the most important planet is the moon. So moon, we can see, is conjunct to Saturn, which is not very good, so some shortage will be there. Then we have to see the most important houses in the second Hora is the second house, that is ruled by Mars. Mars is here in the fifth house. Okay, he's not in a enemy house, it's okay. Mercury's only enemy is not giving strong aspect to Mars, so Mars is quite fine. So the second house is secure. Then also important is the fourth house, which is here, because it is 2 into 2 is the square of 2 is 4. So therefore we can see that where the wealth leads to, this is where it leads to, and it is Saturn and Moon. So so what is the condition of this house? So in one sense Saturn is in his own house, which makes him very strong and eventually also withstanding the onslaughts of Moon. Let's see the Shatpala. Moon Shatpala is high, Saturn Shatpala is quite a little bit lower. So from that we can see that the Moon is not completely dying, since his Shatpala is higher, and in another sense we can see that the Saturn is quite suffering, but since he's in own sign he might be able to withstand it. So so let's say conclusion regarding second house is, since Mars is already there in quite rather good condition, we can have to say that Mars, he is able to fight for his wealth. He's able, if there are obstacles are there, he's man enough to go and face them. He's smart enough, or has enough sense to tackle the problems, since Mars is already significator for second house, since here is in the second cusp, since here is ruling the second house, and Mars is in good condition, so he's definitely able to face the problems. And there will be times that there is some shortage there when we're going through Venus and Mercury dashas, but overall maintenance is secured. But I would say not excess. It will not be a very rich person, that I can say, since there is a problem here and some problem there from Venus and Mercury. Okay, so let's move on to the fourth. Let's see the luxuries. He will have real estate, will he have house, will he have cars and so on. So let's see the house first. So the fourth house goes to Taurus. The fourth cusp, though it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth house, fifth Rasi, the fifth zodiac from the Ascendant, but the exact cusp goes to goes to Taurus. Also the fifth is Taurus. So this Rasi, this container here, holds two Bhava points, the sixth, the fourth point, and the fifth point. And there we see Venus in his own house, in his own house in Venus. So that is very good indication. Then let's see what the D4 is doing. In D4 we have to consider the fourth house, Mercury. Mercury is considering Saturn as neutral. So therefore there is no problem there, but it's also not no boost there. From the in the fourth D4 we also have to consider the second one, because it's the square root of number 4. And there we see Moon in debilitation, Venus there in the neutral sign, and Rahu is there. Then we also have to consider the D7, the 7th house, because 4 into 4 is 16, 66 plus 1 is 7. So this is the square, the square of the number 4 falls into 7. Jupiter is there in a friend, delighting, in a house that is delighted. And we see that Jupiter builds a Parivartan Yoga with Mars. So, and that is 8th, 3rd Parivartan Yoga. So overall we can see to the D4 from the Rasi chart it is rather good, but Ketu is there. So Ketu always means some kind of detachment, some kind of restraint, sometimes of something of not full growth, because Ketu is another name. Ketu is misty, so he likes is builds his castle, his strong walls, and is not actually cannot expand. Rahu is the one who wants to expand and explore, but Ketu doesn't. He is more introvert and contains things in himself. So therefore this fourth house, this fourth cusp, and also the fifth cusp, which are both there, they will not be able to so much expand, especially not in the young age. Rather in the after 40, when Rahu starts to mature at 42 and Ketu starts to mature at 48, then this containment of Ketu, this restraint that Ketu gives, will be able to resolve itself if this Rahu Ketu dilemma is resolved in the chart. So I mean, they are one entity. Rahu and Ketu are one entity. There is one. Rahu is the head of the snake, Ketu is the tail of the snake. So Rahu and Ketu, they can never feel fulfilled unless you have combined them. And that doesn't happen in the young age. It happens, the maturation of Rahu happens at 42 and the maturation of Ketu happens at 48. So this polarity of Rahu and Ketu can only be resolved with age. So therefore, since the fourth cusp, the fourth Bhava point falls into this Rasi, though Venus is there in his own house, but Ketu gives restraint to it, and it cannot fully flourish, not fully expand. It can be, but only after maybe 20 years. Now this our friend here, his birth, he's now 26, so it will take another 20 years until this house really can flourish. It takes another 20 years. But if we see the details of the D4, um, we see that again there is what I want to talk about is this Parivartan Yoga. So this is 3 and 8. So that is actually not an, oh no, 3 and 7, sorry, 3 and 7. Here is, this is the 7th, this is the 3rd. So the third Parivartan Yogas that involve a 3rd house always means that there is a lot of effort required. The 3rd house is the place of effort where we have to develop skills, where we have to refine our skills. And involving the 7th house is partnerships and others. The 1st house is the self, the 7th house is others. So it's partnerships. So for him to unlock this 4th house, he will have to work a lot and make a lot of effort and refine his skills in his relationships or in his partnerships. He will have to work a lot on that to be able to unlock this house. But Mars being in his friend's house, Jupiter being in his friend's house, he will have the guts and the energy and the capability to face this challenge. Also we can see Saturn here is in the Sun, in the house of the Sun. Sun is in the Lagna, debilitated. So here again we can see that the Sun in debilitation in the Lagna of the D4, that means that the desire he has for building his luxuries, means the kingdom of his luxuries, will not gonna happen. It's not going to happen because Sun has no power to uphold the kingdom. And in the Rasi of the Sun, the Leo, there is Saturn giving restraint. So it seems that this person, he will not undergo poverty, though there will be times of a bit more scarce times than other times when there is Mercury dashas going on, where Venus influences are going on. Here Saturn is giving also restraint to the Moon, and Saturn also is the 4th house, restraint is there. So there will be no excess money at times. And also in terms of luxuries, something can be hoped for in older age, but within the next 20 years there will be a lot of struggle and a lot of having to learn and refine before we'll be able to unlock the 4th house. And it cannot grow to extreme extents since the Sun is in debilitation, and also there is a restraint from Saturn on the Sun's Rasi, Leo. Moon is also in debilitation, and Venus is getting starved by Moon. So it is rather not too much hope for too much money and wealth and luxuries. So that is in my analysis of wealth matters and luxury matters. There is not too much hope, yeah. Especially for excess wealth, big bank balance, big house and big cars and stuff. There is not much hope for that. Okay, let's move on to relationships. All right. So relationships is seen from the 7th. So the 7th falls in Cancer, 24 degrees Cancer. Moon already is not well off. He's rather starved by Saturn, not fully starved. And since Moon rules the 7th cusp. So let's see the influences on the 7th cusp. So in the 7th from the Lagna, we have the Sun. Good. Sun is exalted. Very nice aspect. Its own Lord aspect on the Moon is not strong. So if the own lord aspects the own house, it's always good. It always gives a lot of room of development. So most probably this person will not be so much able to develop his relationship skills, since the moon is not very strong, and also is not aspecting much to his own house. Mars aspecting there generally is not a good thing, because this is called Mangalik dosha, but it is not Mangalik dosha. However, I would say Mars aspect on this cusp will give some ability to fight for it. Mercury aspecting, and then we have Venus, Jupiter a little bit, Saturn a little bit. So the strongest aspect comes from the Sun and Mercury. So we can see that when these two planets dashas will go on, then the desire for relationship will be there. Whether it can happen, then we have to see the moon, or yeah, whatever. So let's see what dasha is now. The dasha now going on is Mercury dasha. So therefore, definitely, since Mercury is the strongest aspect on the 7th cusp, the desire for relationship is strong during this dasha, and also marriage can happen during this dasha. So we have now Mercury going on. It's definitely very strong. Yeah. So I don't want to go too much into predictive things in this video. So generally, I just want to say that 7th house matters can definitely be helped by Mercury. So now let's look at the D9. So the D9 will give us information about how the native will feel within the marriage ashram. Yeah, as we said in the introduction video, the D9 is about the ashram and how this vehicle of ashram is, which we choose to be on our life path. So in D9, the most important planet is the Venus. Venus is because, and why is that so? Because Parashara, he gave 16. He gave us 16 Vargas to look at. The first one is Rasi chart, then the second Hora, the third one is the D3, the Trekana, the fourth one is the D4, then we have the fifth one is Navamsa, the seventh, I mean, so to say, the D5 and the D6 we don't look at. That is not given by Parashara to look at. We look at the D7. The D7, that is the fifth, and then the D9 is the sixth given by Parashara. So what is given, just to see, is the D1, the D2, the D3, the D4, the D7, the D9. Then the D10, the D12, the D16, the D20, 24, and 30. So, and the D27 is also given. Sorry. What? Excuse me, my daughter wanted to go to the water. The D40, D45, and D60. So these are 16 Vargas given by Parashara, and the first one is ruled by the Sun. Then the second planet after the Sun is Moon. I mean, if we go in the weekdays, It's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So Monday, Moon. Tuesday, Mars. Wednesday, Mercury. Sorry. Mercury. Then Thursday, Jupiter. Then Friday, Saturn. Venus. Friday, Saturday, Saturn. Then D12 is Rahu Ketu. Rahu and Ketu. So these are the planets that rule the Varga. So D9, though D9 is actually the specifics of the ninth house. This one, the ninth house, the Dharma house, and it gives us information about what is the moral standard, what is the moral vehicle, or that the person chooses to run his life. And since most of the people run their lives in a relationship, D9 is mostly for marriage. But since D9 is the sixth Varga given by Parashara, it is ruled by Venus. D7 is ruled by Jupiter, and therefore D7 is relationship, and the very close relationship between man and woman creates children. So therefore D7 shows the children, and Jupiter is the creator. So D7 makes sense. It is Jupiter that is ruled by D7 is ruled by Jupiter. Alright, so let's have a look at the D9. So in D9, the most important house is the ninth. Ninth is Mars. Mars is in exaltation, but restrained by Ketu. Then, the most important planet is Venus. Venus is in a friend sign. Venus considers Mercury a friend. Very good, he's delighted. But he's conjunct to an enemy. Venus considers Moon an enemy. Why considers Venus and Moon an enemy? Because Venus is about fulfillment we get from the world. And Moon is about our need, what we want. And Moon is also imagination. So we cannot shape the world according to our wanting. The world is as it is, and it gives us as it gives. And it doesn't give us our enjoyment and what we have and what we get according to our wanting. We are not God who can just shape the world by our will. So therefore, if now the agenda of the Moon of having a specific desire, having a certain wanting, a certain will, a wish, is now going to want to have the world be exactly as it wants the enjoyment exactly as it wants, it will not work well together. So if Venus is alone, not starved by Moon, not in combination to the Moon, then Venus is free to just be taking delight in the world. Or like we're going to see the sunset and just enjoy the sunset. But if the Moon is there, then I want a sunset, but it should be not that hot. So we are like getting some disturbances there in the enjoyment, because a specific desire enters, a specific need. I want it to be like this. It should be a nice sunset on the beach, and at the same time I should get my favorite drink, my favorite song should play, and it should be not that hot. But and since Moon is with Venus, then the desires become too specific to be fulfilling, and you will not get that. Definitely will be disturbed. If your desires are so specific, you will be disturbed. But if Venus would be alone, then you will be just sitting on the beach and you will just appreciate, that song that's playing is really nice. Though it's not my favorite song, though I would like to have maybe another song, but I just appreciate. and I can appreciate how other people appreciate that song or something like that. And okay, I not get my favorite drink, but this drink is really good. All right, let me in, and we'll be happy. But there, so this is just, I'm saying this just to explain how Venus considers Moon an enemy, because it will reduce your enjoyment, because you become too specific, too egoistic in your enjoyment. In other aspect, we can also see Venus is about relationships. It's about marriage in general. Also, it's a karaka for marriage. So if now Moon comes in, and Moon has specific demands, oh, I want it to be like this, that will never work out in a relationship, because there are two different minds. You cannot expect the other exactly works the way you are desiring it. So therefore, that will be detrimental for a relationship. So therefore, Moon starves Venus. So since now Venus is the most important planet in the Navamsa, and Moon is starving Venus, so we can see that when it comes to his marriage, or any path he chooses in, if he's not married, if he chooses to be a monk, whatever, but if he goes down, is in his ashram of marriage or not marriage, whatever, he will have some dissatisfaction, because the things are not exactly as he wants it, and that will be just a theme through his whole life, like that. But yeah. Then in Navamsa again, we can see, or we can also see the ninth. So this is from Venus, all right. So the ninth house is ruled by Mars. Mars is in exaltation. So Mars is very capable. So however, he might have some dissatisfaction, but however, since dissatisfaction is there, he's able to live with it, carry on, and still make it happen, make it possible. So the spirit there to fight is there. Then we can see there is a Parivartan Yoga between Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn is in the 7th, in the Saturn house. Jupiter is in the 7th, and Saturn is in the 8th. So this is a Parivartan Yoga between 8 and 7. So a Parivartan Yoga where the 8th house is involved is always brings sudden disruptions. The 8th house is the house of accidents, of sudden accidents, sudden things that happen, sudden disruptions, yeah. So it's the house of sudden disruptions, and that will bring sudden disruptions to the 7th house. So on his path, on his marriage, there will always be some sudden disruptions. Yeah, plainly as that. But after all, Saturn is actually quite okay there. It's neutral friend house. Jupiter is also neutral house. So I would rather say he will be able to tolerate it, but it is hard at times. Yeah. The sun is in debilitation in Navamsa. That means that the life he envisions, will be difficult for him to manifest it, since the sun, the king, is in debilitation, and he cannot build the kingdom he would like to have. All right. So, just for conclusion, so in analysis of this chart, in terms of money, there will be no poverty, but there will be no excess, too much. Whatever his family, if he will have a family, he will be able to provide for his children the needed things. Though at times there might be some scarcity, but overall he can tackle it. He has the ability to face the problems and deal with it. but some restraint is there. If it goes to the desire for more, for big house, big big wealth, luxuries, big flat screen TV, newest iPhone and stuff like that, there is a restraint to it because of Ketu, and also he will need a lot of effort. He will have a lot of learning to do to achieve that, and it is most probably only be expected in age after 45. Yeah. All right, I hope if you were it was insightful for you. You could learn a lot about this. You know, thank you very much for watching. Please help me to grow this channel. That will be nice. Since already I'm on YouTube, of course I have a desire to grow this thing. So a like is always helpful. And a like is always helpful. And also more watch time is always helpful. More subscribers is always helpful. And also if you comment is always helpful. So this is my channel. There are already quite a lot of many videos there. Mostly I'm speaking about Vedic philosophy, but since I started studying and practicing astrology, I have also topics about astrology. Especially this is a series I did here, from this video to this video, that explain my approach to astrology from the viewpoint of Vedic philosophy. Yeah, that's quite interesting series. I would suggest you to watch that. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.